Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Talent Playbook Podcast. My name is Jasson Ferrara. I'm the Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer at Outmatch and your host for the podcast. Our podcast focuses on strategies for transforming your world of work. So during each podcast, we'll highlight someone who's transformed their organization or their industry in some significant way. Today's guest is Julie Nelson, the owner and CEO of Meeting Muse, an event planning company. I really enjoyed my conversation with Julie, as I usually do. I know her because we've used her before at Outmatch to plan meetings, but she really outlines some things I didn't know about her in this podcast. The first thing that struck me was just her concept of street smarts and how important street smarts are for her business and really applying to anyone's business. The fact that meeting planning is highly relationship driven. Most of her employees are contractors, so these relationships are very important. She talks about how she's had 10,000 hours. The Malcolm Gladwell maxim of 10,000 hours makes you an expert in some area. So she talks a lot about that. I thought that was really interesting. I also thought her take on the ROI of events was incredibly interesting. For her, more of a feeling of an experience, a brand experience, than it is necessarily of hard numbers. I think that will cause some conversation as you think about how do you measure your events. And then, she's really big on learning every day. This is really important to have your eyes open, your ears open, be willing to learn and listen. One of the great lessons, I think, from her. So, without further delay, enjoy Julie Nelson, CEO of Meeting Muse. Hey, Julie, thanks for being on the podcast today. I'm really excited about our conversation. I appreciate you spending the time.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, what I thought we should do is start by just having you give a quick description of your business, Meeting Muse. I don't think all our listeners will know what Meeting Muse is, so I think it would be nice just to hear your description of the business.
Sure. Well, really, Jason, Meeting Muse is a meeting and event planning company. And what does that mean? There are people that don't understand what a meeting and event planning company do, but basically, I help my clients bring calm and order to their meetings and events, and really just provide the security of there's a lot of contractors you need to bring on. There's a lot of vendors you need to sign with. So just a lot of security in signing contracts, making sure that we're doing the right thing financially, getting the best bang for our buck. A lot of the times, somebody internally might take on planning a meeting and then they've never done it before and actually wind up spending a lot more internal resources and money in order to get it accomplished. And what we do is really look at the big picture and really put something together for our clients that is the best ROI for their conference. And so it's a great little niche, and my business has been around for 15 years, and I've always been in the hospitality industry. So that's it.
Great. Yeah, thanks. A couple things I want to follow up on. First, I would ask, how did you get, so you've always been in the hospitality industry, but how did you get started in meeting and event planning?
Oh, okay. So in the hotel business, when I was really, really young, I had a girlfriend that worked with me in hotels, and she went off on her own and actually started a meeting and event planning company. She was in sales, I was in operations, and she had a few clients that or few clients in the hotel that basically, said, hey, you'd be really good at event planning, and we want you to be an event planner if you ever think about leaving. So she did. She left her position in the hotel business and she became a third party planner, basically for high tech companies. And at the time, I was a stay home mom, and she asked me to work with her. So it was right when dial up, was a thing.
Hmm. I do
And
remember
I
that.
was, yeah. And so I was able to work from Dallas and she was able to work from Nashville. And she and I were really productive together. And we knew each other from the hotel business. We worked together in California. And it was just really cool. So that was my first experience. So I was contracting to another event planner. And the first program that I actually did was 3,500 people in Las Vegas.
That's a big
So,
meeting for the first meeting,
yeah.
huh?
And to be quite honest with you, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I did it. And with this type of career, you got to be really street smart to get some stuff done. And I really flexed my street smarts on that program, and I was really proud of what I did. So after that, I kind of got addicted to it, and I did more contract with her, but I also did a lot of contract work with other meeting and event planners as well, and then eventually formed my own business through friends in the community and business leaders.
So you mentioned being street smart. So um, define what you think that means, and then tell us how you develop those street smarts.
Good question. Really, to me, street smart is knowing the appropriate fix for the situation, and knowing how it's gonna. There's a consequence to every choice, and really quickly evaluating the consequences and making the best decision that you can on site. So on site, when a program goes live, we do the planning from A to Z. And the most important part of our role, I really feel, is on site, because that's when all the plans that you've planned out on paper can go wrong. So really, it's about the fix when you're on site. And that's where your street smarts come in. You got to be quick on your feet to make sure you can deliver a great program. It might not be exactly to the script that you wrote for it, but it's going to go off of that script, and just being quick on your feet. One time, I literally had a keynote speaker um, with 100 people in the audience. He basically had an anxiety attack on stage and excused himself from the stage.
Ooh.
And everyone was there for the event, and the crowd got pretty calm. Like, holy cow. I literally jumped into action, and in my head, I knew all the attendees in the audience,
Yeah.
and I knew of a couple of them that actually were trying to perfect their skill at keynote speaking. Not kidding you. And I literally went straight to this guy and said, listen, I'm going to need you to handle up here. You're going on the stage in 5 minutes. I'm going to get on the microphone and tell everyone the bar's open. You get ready, and you're going to perfect that speech you were telling me about. And he literally delivered, and
Oh,
everyone
wow.
gave him a huge review. But that is street smart,
Great
like,
story.
holy hell, what do we do? And, everyone's just looking at me. So
Yeah,
I
that's a
hope that
that's
answers the question.
yeah, that's a great story. Now, have you always been like that your whole life? When you were a
Yeah,
kid, were you able to pull off stuff
yeah.
like that too?
Yeah, pretty much. I wasn't the one getting the A's in school, but I was always the first in line. um, but no, I'm the third. I'm the baby of the family, and I think that has a lot to do with it. I think, by then, God bless my parents, they were both full-time working folks, and being the third, eventually all the you know time gets, consumed by just daily life with your parents. And I taught myself a lot. I remember, just teaching myself how to ride a bike, in the
Yeah.
summer because my parents were at work and I wanted to know how to ride a bike. And I went up and down a fence post and balanced on the fence post
Yeah.
and figured it out that night. My mom and dad got home, and I remember my mom and dad picking a gazillion splinters out of my arm. But, um, just kind of, I guess I've always been that way. Just really, I'm a very curious person by nature, so I really enjoy figuring things out. Um,
Oh, that's
so.
great. Yeah, full disclosure for our audience, you and I have worked together on a couple of meetings, and just based on your description right there, it's very accurate of your personality. I mean, you do really jump in. You are very curious, and you do give off this entrepreneurial, self-taught vibe that's really fun and infectious to be a part of. So you're very self-aware when it comes to that. That was a great, just me knowing you, that was a great answer to that question. So
Thanks.
this podcast is called the Talent Playbook. So I want to get back to talent and your organization specifically, and then the things you've seen in other organizations. But before I do, I want to go back to a comment you made earlier about helping your clients understand or achieve the ROI in their event. So,
Hmm.
you know, I'm just going to make an assumption that many people don't think in terms of event ROI. So help me understand what event ROI is and how you work with your clients around that.
Well, event ROI to me and most people in the event planning industry is not a number, because it's incredibly difficult to figure out a number based on your events. ROI is that experience that you provide. So for Outmatch, you guys do a great um, uh, client conference. And the ROI on your client conference is basically that, you are loving your clients up. You're investing in your clients. You are getting them together. You're getting them out of their office space. You're getting them with other like-minded people in their fields. Or not, but they all have something in common. They use the Outmatch tool, and that alone for Outmatch is, uh, in my opinion, just an amazing opportunity to pour your energy into the client in a different way. And not every company invites their clients to an annual conference where they basically say, thank you, and here's some more things you can get out of this tool that are really going to help you, nurture your talent and grow your business successfully. That's a huge investment in your clients. And so it's not necessarily a number. You might see a number from them later. It's not immediate, but over time, the ROI definitely shows up because, getting your people together with other people that they can network and learn more from, not just about Outmatch, but HR trends and what's current in the industry. These people wind up going home and forming new relationships with other professionals. So the ROI is just, to me, it's invisible. It's just not measurable, but the energy's there. The energy's in a room. When you see somebody, you feel their energy. If they're in a bad mood, um, the energy's there. It's invisible, but you feel it, and your clients feel that, and that's the ROI.
Do you have clients who want to put a number on it that say, Julie, I'm glad you want to help us with experiential ROI, but I also, I require financial ROI. Do you have clients that push you for that or actually practice that?
Jason, it's funny that you mentioned that. I have never had anybody ask me for that.
Oh, yeah,
Um, and I don't know if internally they do something as
sure,
far as tracking.
sure.
But I've never had anybody ask me for that, because I personally truly believe it is an energy thing over financial, and you're gonna see that return later.
Yeah,
It's not instant. So how do you measure that over 5 years?
right, right.
But no, I haven't had that. And it'd be interesting to know if there's companies out there that actually can track the ROI on a conference like that.
Yeah,
That would be good to know.
one of the things that we do is try to look at, upsell, for example, of clients who would attend a conference,
Hmm.
or look at it as I have a friend who calls them customer collision moments, where you get together with your customer and you have a meaningful experience that results in um, in revenue. So, if we have a customer who's looking to sign a contract and they would come to that event, that's a perfect opportunity for us to work with them one on one, face to face, not over the
Sure.
telephone kind of thing, to work on a contract. So we'll measure ROI in that way, but definitely, I mean, in all my years of traveling to conferences and putting on meetings, I agree with you, there is that visceral, did these people have a good time? Will they come back? Was that an experience that represented the brand? Those are
Right.
the intangible questions I ask in my head about putting on meetings like that. So I
Yeah.
recognize your what I will just start calling invisible ROI, right? The invisible
So
hand of
you'll
ROI.
you'll have to share with me now that we're getting closer. You'll have to share with me how you guys measure your ROI, and that way I can help you on my end if I
Yeah,
understand better. If you guys are putting some numbers to it, it'll help me think differently
yeah,
about your programming.
that's great.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's great. Let's do that offline because I want to I want to move to a little bit about talent. I asked you a question before, just about how you got into the business, and you were using the word hour to describe your business. So tell me who the hour is in at Meeting Muse, right? Tell me about
Yeah.
your employees and the people you work with and contractors and that sort of thing.
Hmm. So I'm a third party planner and an independent planner for the most part. It with meeting and event planning, it's feast or famine, and the margins are low in meeting and event planning. So it's extremely difficult to keep full-time people on, unless I've got a client that's going to sign a 5-year contract with me. I know I'm pretty safe to hire an employee at that point.
So wait,
And
real quick, if I can interrupt. You have some clients who contract with you long term for the same event year after year, or is it
Mhm,
how does that
mhm,
how does that long term
mhm.
contract work?
Well, basically, we set up, it's usually 5 is an exaggeration, I'll say, but 3 it would be more like it. There are some companies that already have their budget set out for that long term, and they know what they want to accomplish each year.
Hmm.
So they wind up, let's set our hotels up for 3 years.
Got it.
And you have stronger negotiation power, to be able to sign a hotel contract for 3 years versus one. And as you know, and also with everybody else I'm hiring on the client's behalf.
Sure.
Hey, this is a 3-year deal. If you want to have the guaranteed calendar date, let's do this. But, let's negotiate a little bit. It helps the client. It helps all of us in the industry
Got it.
to stay busy.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so thank you for that. And so now let's go back to, um, I think you were saying, because you're a third party planner, it's hard to keep full-time employees. So let's get back into that conversation. What does talent look like for Meeting Muse?
Yeah, so my talent is basically, I have some very regular contractors that I hire. So out there in the meeting and event planning world, There'll be very big meeting and event planning companies that several people use. It's even rare for them to have full-time employees on. Their planners are usually contractors. So a contractor
Okay.
might be loyal to one big meeting planning house, but they're still a contractor. That company's not going to guarantee that person full-time employment because it's feast or famine.
Yeah, sure.
Um, so I operate the same way. I think the PR world kind of operates the same
Hmm.
way, any
Hmm.
service-based industry, and especially because I'm a boutique planner. So my talent
Wait,
is
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm
contractors.
going to interrupt you
Yep.
again. Sorry.
Mhm.
What does boutique planner mean?
Boutique planners, just our focus is more on small to mid-size events.
Got it. Okay.
I have the ability to do something much bigger, but it would just require me, you know, contracting more people
Got
and
it.
getting it
Okay.
done.
Okay. So I'll
But
stop.
my focus is small to mid-size.
Okay, great. I'll stop interrupting. So
Jason,
so go ahead on the
we didn't
contracting side of things.
Yeah. So anyway, I have a great talent pool, and this is where I serve my clients the best. I am constantly networking, constantly meeting new people, new venues, new vendors, new contractors that plan events, and I've got this arsenal of people that I can pull in. That know how to work with me and know me as a person, and that's how I pull my talent in. So really, um, a contractor is going to be pretty flexible, um, and grateful to be working with you. There's the contractors that just are machines, at task management and just getting things done. And what I generally do is lead those teams of people when we're on a project. So I've done my 10,000 hours, if you will, of meeting and event planning, and I have my internal red flags built up. And what I really like to do is manage those people that are still kind of perfecting their skill, but
Hmm.
really good, but be able to oversee what they're doing and collaborate with them. What if we did this, or what if this happens, and just make sure we're all safe and our program's tight.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
how does that work in an event? So you've done, like you said, you've done your 10,000 hours, right?
Mhm.
You've played all the gigs before you were
And then
famous,
some,
right? You played all the gigs before you were famous, and
right?
so then you're hiring contractors who are, maybe on their 8,000th hour or something like that. What do you look for in a contractor like that? And then my follow-up to that would be how do you let them grow in their job? If you're constantly your antenna are up, your street smarts antenna
Right.
are up for, what do I need to do in the moment? How do you choose them, and then how do you let them go do what they need to do?
Yeah, that has definitely been a muscle I've been flexing in the last few years, and I've really enjoyed the leadership part of it. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely the type A type
Mm.
back in the day, but realized, there's no growth there. You gotta let go. Um, excuse me.
I could very easily rename the podcast the interviews of type A people, right? So
Right.
everybody I've interviewed so far is similar in that respect. So it's not something you have to be
Right.
an apologist for.
No, and I don't. I mean, that's all part of learning, right? And if we're not learning every day, it's just, anyway, I won't go down that road.
I agree.
But
I agree. We'll get there.
the way, yeah, what I do, Jason, and I am very selective with who I do pick to come on with me. And if I can't find that person, I'll wind up planning the event myself. And I have done that once or twice just because a client's booked last minute and I don't have the talent to pull from. I put myself on the project because I just need to know um, who I'm working with. And if I'm going to be experimenting with someone new, it might be a project where I've got three contractors, and I'll put that third contractor that I haven't worked with yet on the least important piece of the program
Hmm. Hmm.
so that, I can monitor that, let that person grow with me, but also in areas that they can fail. If they do, I'm there to help them. But also, again, we do monthly meetings, and then go into it weekly once we're ready to really hit the ground running with the program. And that's usually 3 months prior, 3 to 4 months prior. We'll have weekly meetings. And those are those times where we talk about things like that. Like, I've got a new contractor, and, they're on the registration setup, say, and, I go through the registration database, and hey, I see that if they click here, it does this, but it doesn't do that. What do you think we should do? And I'll let them answer, of course.
Hmm.
And, sometimes I'll let them do it their way to see that it does not work perfectly, knowing it's not going to work perfectly, but it's still okay.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to sometimes do those things, because in the meeting and event planning world, everything really does need to be perfect. But what's more important is that I continue to mentor people that are out there, in the industry, and help them grow as well. And so, it's what I choose to do.
Thanks for that. It's what's so interesting is the how. I guess this should be a question really rather than my statement, but how do you? I think you explained this a bit, but the notion that everything has to be perfect, but I also have to be available to let my staff do it themselves and potentially fail at something. You know,
Hmm.
when is that? When does that switch from that attitude to, oh, we're going down this road and it's like a critical failure and I got to take over? How do you know in your business, or how do you know personally when it's time for that? When it's time for, oh, this person cannot, we cannot let this part of the meeting be a failure or of the planning be a failure, and then you switch to take over kind of thing.
Hmm. Well, I think everything's choice and consequence, and whether your consequence is good or bad. I guess because of my 10,000 hours plus, I really know what can happen. And if it's a minor thing, it's going to be minor, and that person's going to learn. But if it is a major thing that has major consequence, that's where I will get involved and, take over the leadership of it. I can also tell, when people feel not so confident about what they're doing. You can hear it in their voice.
Hmm.
Um, they might not respond to emails, um, as quick as they usually do, because maybe they're thinking about it. I don't know. There's just some intuitive things about it. And this is where the street smart comes in, I think.
Hmm.
Intuition is strong here for me. And, I just really rely on my intuition. Boy, there's some things that I haven't in the past, and it's just bitten me in the butt. Um, so my intuition always tells me when I should take over.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's, it's worked. It's
Yeah.
worked, and I'm not going to buck it.
Well, that's great, and but I think I think when people describe intuition, and my memory of reading the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours, like intuition isn't an innate thing. Intuition's a thing that you have because you've done this for 10,000 hours, right?
Right,
That's
right.
it's there's experience, it's a very complex web of things that help you make a decision. But what I hear you talking about is contractors, choosing the right contractors is really about building a relationship. It's really about um, having those street smarts to say, this person, I'm a good judge of character. I think this person can do the job. I see where their strengths are. Whether or not you know it, my guess is you're analyzing this um, subconsciously or consciously. You may
Hmm.
be keeping notes
Hmm.
and things like that, and so so it probably isn't as loose as it may feel when you describe it. Um,
Yeah.
there's probably more science to it, but that's a really great example of hiring contractors.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so let's go back to just you as a business manager. What's a day in the life like for you?
My day in a life, the event planning industry is crazy, and it's each day is really not the same. Um, Sometimes I really crave routine because I really can't have it. Sometimes I just wish like, gosh, I wish I could just wake up every day and do the same thing. But I know that would
Time
drive me
time
insane.
time to make the donuts, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that only goes so far. And day in the life, different, but usually a day in the life involves uh, some type of conversation with a vendor, client, contractor. Keeping things moving really is the day in the life of what I do
Hmm.
specifically. I can be, you know, flying to Sonoma for a site inspection, but while I'm in the airport, I'm taking a conference call with whoever to keep things moving. Get on the plane, get my Wi-Fi going, and keep things moving there. Get off my plane, get a rental car, go to my destination, meet with vendors in the specific area, get, some things together for a client that's waiting to get some costing done on a program. Um, so my day in a life is really juggling a lot of balls
Hmm.
in different locations for sure. And keeping things moving is really my day. Um, Back when I was a doer, it was definitely sitting at my computer the majority of the day, just, belting things out and then going on site. But nowadays it's just more of that, more leadership and visionary on programs.
Hmm.
Um, I'd like to say I could start my day with a routine, but it's so crazy because I'm on a flight or I'm on, a call and, with different time zones, and no day is the same
Yeah.
in what I do. And anybody in my industry could say that pretty much too.
Yeah.
It's not the same any day. Even if you're the doer sitting at the desk,
Right.
every day
It's
is
always
different.
there's always something that happens, and I'm sure because it's a people focused business, right? You're not dealing
Yeah.
with a machine that has a process. You're dealing with people who have emotions and thoughts, and so that's one of the reasons that
Hmm.
drives the difference in the days. And I know you're not looking for a lot of sympathy, but you're not going to find it when you describe your day in the life as hopping on an airplane to go to Sonoma, right? You're not getting a lot of people are not
Well,
crying a lot of tears.
I mean, I know it. It's so funny. And Jason, there's so many like younger people that come to me and they want to be event planners.
Right.
And, I always get, their parents or their aunt and uncle, hey, can you talk to Susie about being an event planner? And immediately, how come you want to be an event planner? Well, because it just looks so fun.
Yeah.
And it really does. But man, when you're on a flight and you go to Sonoma and you can't like be on vacation,
Right.
that kind of sucks too. So
Right.
I'm just going to give you a different perspective that, like, going out to Sonoma, you're being entertained and, everyone wants to get your business. So they want to take you to the wineries.
Right.
But like, I can't sit there and drink. I got a job to do and I got to take notes and have a report back from my clients. So
Yeah.
I am not on vacation when I'm on those site inspections. And that's the funny thing is sometimes clients, I'll have in my cost projections a site inspection fee, and they're like, oh, you charge for that? I'm like, it's my time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my job.
Now if I can go on vacation, I won't charge you for that. But it's a lot of work, those site inspections.
Yeah.
They're, and over the years, I've been by myself on them, and nothing is more sad than being somewhere romantic when you're doing a site inspection for like an incentive trip in Cabo or,
Hmm.
Cancun or something, and you're all by yourself.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I'm just gonna de-gloritize that whole picture for you right there, okay, buddy?
Sounds good. Sounds good. It's like when you know people hear about business travel and think it's glamorous, and then you're like, yeah, well,
Ugh,
the airport food, the exhaustion,
yeah,
the taxis, So anyway, yeah, I get it.
just the
So
everything, yeah.
so as a business manager, I two questions before we really close up. So one thing I'm interested in are some of the biggest changes you've seen, really not in the industry, not in the event planning industry, but in your business, since when you started your business to today. What are some of those big changes that you've seen?
Wow, Jason, I just did some work with a group about how much technology has changed my business
Yeah.
and the future of face to face, meeting face to face,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and what that's going to look like in the future. And I think that's the biggest thing to grab hold of right now for anybody in my industry is um, this has traditionally been a everybody come together in one place physically and meet and share experiences and learn. And technology is going to change this.
Yeah.
And what's really important for my industry's survival is for people to embrace technology and stop bucking it. I want people to meet in person. That's never going to change for me because I get energy from other people.
Right.
Um, and it makes a difference for me when I meet face to face. But the world is changing so much. You and I are in two different cities, and we're having this chat, and we're
Mm-hmm.
recording your podcast, and um, it's just the way of the future. And so I don't know what's coming down the pipe. I do know technology's changed the way we do registration for events, big time. Apps are wonderful. It's so great to get rid of this paper
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that bogs us down. The apps have been just amazing for some of the events that we're doing. And also just, everything else, the beacon technology and, scanning where people are, with the, different type of name badges that can
Mm-hmm.
kind of be detected
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
electronically and see where Susie Jones is. Is she in the breakout session or is she somewhere else on property? And um, it's it's really going to change the way we things do. So I just did, I said I did an event with a group. Basically, they experimented with a gigantic screen, LED screen in the room, and basically had about 12 pictures and pictures. And
Mm-hmm.
all their breakouts were being projected on this one gigantic
Oh,
screen.
that's cool.
And people that didn't know what breakout they wanted to go to could sit down in front of the screen and select the channel that they wanted to listen to
Wow.
in their earphones.
Yeah.
They just download an app on their phone and bam, they're listening to a different breakout
Ooh.
and just sitting in one seat. They
Yeah.
might go, oh, I'm not interested in that content, and jump to channel 5
Mm-hmm.
and watch that on the big screen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's very cool.
So it's like this one room with this big screen with all the breakouts going on in the convention center, but you have this option to go sit and watch all of them at once if you want.
Yeah, that's really
That was a
neat.
big deal.
Yeah, that's a big
you
change.
know,
It's a big change.
so that was really interesting. And it was eye-opening to me for sure because that might be the future of meetings.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and there's still a benefit of being face to face for networking and colleagues. But if
Hmm.
you're stuck in the middle of a row in a breakout room and it's the content's not for you,
It's
there's
hard to duck
you're
out.
right. It's very difficult to excuse me,
Yeah,
cause that.
yeah.
So, all right, we just have a few more 4 minutes, and I have about 30 questions that I'd love to keep asking. I can call you whenever and have these. I think what I'd like to do is just get some advice that you'd give to people who are starting their careers. Not starting their careers in event planning, sure, but just starting their careers in general. That moment where you realize you need a job, you're going to get a job. Like now, what's your advice to people in that situation?
Mm. That's funny because I have two young adults that are in that situation right now. And as a mom, they're like, oh, please. But really, putting yourself out there, uh, you've got to get over this fear of rejection. And it's the hardest thing to do when you're young. But getting over rejection and just really putting your energy out there. You reap what you sow when you put your energy out there. And if you don't, if you don't put yourself out there, you aren't going to get anything in return. And it's so important to just keep muscling through and finding where you belong and finding your niche. And, when you do go somewhere, give it your all. Um, it's not about um, for you know to create a good culture and be in a good culture. It's not about all the special little snacks and amenities in the kitchen. It's actually who your leader is, and leadership is going to be the most important thing to look for in a job. Um, who's going to lead you and mentor you and help you grow and love you up? And I think that would be the most important thing to give advice to anybody, like my own kids,
Yeah.
um, is just look for somewhere where you can grow, whether it be totally outside of what studied in school. Um, find someone that'll help you grow, and that someone will always be so important to you in your life as you move on and find your way.
Oh, that's an excellent place to leave it. Excellent advice and an excellent place to end. So, Julie, thank you so much for the time, and it'll be great to see you again when we do. But I really appreciate the conversation. Thanks so
Oh,
much.
I appreciate you, Jason. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Talent Playbook podcast with our guest Julie Nelson. To learn more about Julie's business, you can visit meetingmuse.com. You can also listen to other episodes of the Talent Playbook podcast by going to outmatch.com. Click the About menu, and you'll see the podcast listed there. So I'd also like to thank our producer and engineer, Charles Summers. Always a big help when it comes to recording the podcast. And until next time, this is Jasson Ferrara saying thanks for listening.